Sorry for jumping right into the time-lapse, but welcome to the video. There's not much else to say. I'm here just catting the second Z-axis bracket that's going to be on this printer. Enjoy. Here is the final product. I've catted the second Z-axis motor bracket as well as the right side of the X-axis. Here you can see how this whole thing is going to go together. So it's been a few days of printing, well, 2 days of printing, and I've been able to finish producing the new parts for the upgrade. All the pieces in yellow are PLA, and the white and black pieces are PTG. I'm now going to show a time-lapse of me disassembling and reassembling the printer. So here's just a little update video of where I am. You can tell I've added the second Z-axis, but nothing's lining up right, and everything's going not according to plan. I'm also running out of these ABC nuts, and I don't have any M3 screws to connect the motor to the bracket. This Z-axis coupler is loose on the stepper motor side, so it's just kind of sitting there. The frame isn't even square anymore, nothing lines up. It's also 1 in the morning. I'm tired. I'll deal with this in the morning. I got the stuff. No, it's none of this. Get out of here. 2 M3 screws, 8mm long, and 3 more of those bolts. Now in the last scene of this, you saw me struggling to put the printer back together. So I've been thinking since then I can either take the whole thing apart and remake it, or I can try to only take the two ends with the z-axis off and then try and straighten out the y-axis, because that's mainly the part that's giving me the biggest trouble right now. So please excuse the messy workstation. I'll just there we go. So I've been doing a bit of printing recently, and by a bit I mean a lot. So I did end up redoing the XZ connector on the left side, the one that has the motor attached to it. This is the old version in black, and as you can see, it has the 2 places for bearings instead of the 1 that the new one has, just on the right side. So it's almost exactly the same piece, and on the inside I've drawn up the distance because the linear rods used to end about here, and now they end here, and that's to give more distance in the not the x-axis. Earlier I was complaining about the Z motor brackets or the Z couplers, I think I call them, and it turns out I was printing the wrong file. So this is the one I was printing, and this is the correct one. As you can see, they're different diameters, and that's what gave it away. So the X tensioner, this is what the bracket rides in. The old one was getting bent, so you can see right there, by being squished by the screws. So I beefed it up, added some bulk to it, if you would say, and now it's really solid, and I don't think we'll be able to get crushed as easily. So with that out of the way, this is the right side of the x-axis. I'm using zip ties now instead of trying to screw it in. This is the right side with the tensioner rod, and this side actually cracked when I was removing the supports that were in this area. So I printed this thin little support, if you will say, that I'm going to super glue over the top of this, so it will be able to hold the bearings once I push them in this way. And of course I'm going to zip tie them the same as on this one, and then attach the motor with the screws. So, time lapse starts now. Alright, now that I have the 2 components of the z-axis mostly put together, I'm going to attempt to reassemble the y-axis, which, as you can see, is just in absolute pieces. So, here I go. And that right there is probably the reason why this printer is so heavy. So from this moment on, I'm going to be using the CAD model, which you can see right there, to reassemble this entire thing. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well. Because if it doesn't, here goes. Right, so that's the back side all adjusted, and now to do the forward section over there. Alright, the front is all adjusted, and now I'm going to put on the left z-axis. So let's see how that goes. So what you just saw me do there was put the other z-axis on, as well as adjust how it would fit so the frame was square. And now I'm going to work on crap. You know what? I should have messed with the x-axis before I finalized the distance between here and here. Well, more fiddling. So now I think I've got the spacing between these two z-axis smooth rods to be just right, so that this x-axis won't slide over them. So now I'm going to connect the z-couple to this threaded rod, and then try and line everything up in the z and x direction. Alright, woohoo, nearly there. Now all I have to do is actually quite a lot. I have to attach these two Z top. I don't know what they're called anymore. I forgot what everything was called. But they go on the top and they support the smooth rod at the top, as well as the threaded rod that the motor is rotating on. I have those on both sides. I also need to put the sliding tensioner mechanism into the x-axis, and as well as hooking all the belts up. I have to cut a new belt for the x-axis, as the old one is sadly too short now, but the Y belt will stay the same. So yeah. Oh, I also forgot one more thing. I also need to attach the Y motor to the bracket that's in the back right here, which you can't see sadly, but oh well. So as I was adjusting the not the camera, the y-axis to make sure that the screws under here that are the leveling knobs are able to clear the nuts on either side, as trying to get that as parallel as perpendicular to the x-axis as possible, I ended up with an unaligned x end stop. So as you can see, I've reached the end of the y-axis, but you can't hear that click that the switch makes. That clicking noise. So I'm going to have to undo these screws. Undo the screws that are holding this motor bracket in place, because that's where the end stop is mounted, and move it over slightly. So there we have it, a completely rebuilt Gibson Mini. Now it took me almost an hour and a half-ish to 2 hours to put all the new pieces in, line everything up after disassembling the entire frame and y-axis, but it was worth it. I should say that X and Y move smoothly, if with little friction, but that can be solved with a bit of lubricant on the rails, as well as not tightening the belt so much. Oh, but you don't want it so loose that it starts skipping steps. There you go. So one thing I noticed was that the two z-axes, the tops aren't exactly on the same level. This one is somehow higher than the left one, which I'm going to blame on the smooth rods, because they weren't all a uniform length. Actually, one was slightly taller, but I don't remember it being that drastic of a difference. Or maybe it could just be the new z-axis bracket that I printed. Well, I'm going to end the video here and leave you waiting for the next video, in which I will finish attaching the hot end, and hopefully by then I'll also have a part cooling fan, so I will be able to get a few good prints off of this, hopefully. So it's the end of this video. Remember, subscribe and hit that bell if you want to hear and see more from me. Ciao.